All right, big welcome to everyone present today for our webinar on how to boost innovation. The clock has now hit 11 sharp, so let's get started. This is our presenters team today. My name is Gauthier and I'm Discovery Lead in HEAL, and I have the pleasure to have with me today Simone and Jutta.
Hi, I'm Simone and I'm a service designer at HEAL.
And hi, everybody, I'm Jutta and I'm also a service designer in our team.
So let me quickly run through the agenda of today's webinar. We're going to introduce a bit the HEAL, how do we work, and the teams which makes the whole HEAL organization. Then we're going to go through some of the innovation activities that we put together, both internally and externally. Then we will share with you the learnings that we've had by going remote and the tips that we've got for you in how to boost remote innovation process. We're going to run you through some of the examples of things that we've done both internally and externally, and we're going to close with a Q&A session. But maybe to begin, it's good to show you this. This is HEAL. We are a team of 18 tech-savvy innovators with a common mission, which is to use digitalization to make the construction industry more efficient and more sustainable. So how do we organize ourselves? We have three teams. First off, in the yellow is the discovery team, which we belong to. And we use service design methods to identify pains, opportunity areas, and then create solutions by running our innovation process. Then we have the development team, which is a bunch of coders, developers, AR and virtual reality experts, software engineers, and they are in charge of building all the crazy concepts and ideas that we come up with, and then on the side experimenting with technology to see what could be applicable and solve problems in the industry. And last but not least, we have a business team, and their responsibility is to build business models around the solutions that we develop. But Jutta, can you give us some examples on how discovery goes around working with innovation?
Yeah, so one of the main tools for facilitating innovation is workshops. And with internal workshops, as the pictures are here shown, it has been always about sharing insights and bringing new themes on the table to base the ideation activities on. But then we also do workshops with externals, and those workshops are more about bringing different industries together or co-creating with different professionals. And here on the left is an image from a workshop on sustainable construction with architects, and on the right, a co-creation workshop with glass industry professionals to show some examples of what we have done.
Thanks, Jutta. So I think, like you clearly said, we work a little bit differently if we work with our internal innovation process or if we engage with externals, and that's important to remember. So let me start by presenting how we work with our internal innovation process. So what you see here is a representation of the first stages in our innovation process, which we call ideation and concept creation. And these activities can be based on an idea coming from within the team, pain points that we've identified during previous projects or coming from a third party, or through research material that either we find or collect or build ourselves. Based on these, we come up with ideas that we develop into concepts and then can become a proof of concept. If they are proven to be feasible from a technological point of view, desirable from the client point of view, and valuable for everybody. So we collect and communicate these ideas in a format of a fake press release. And we use this format because it's very easy to communicate. It's easy to give an overview of what your idea is about, who it is for, and most importantly for us, it's what problems does it aim to solve, which is the core of any innovation we do. So before COVID hit us, how we ran this innovation process was mostly through these innovation days. So we would rally our staff physically to conduct this idea generation process. But while we're just about to put on the next edition together, we had to act responsibly and send everyone to work from home safely, so we couldn't meet face to face. So Jutta, you want to tell us what happened next?
Yes, so indeed, once we moved to remote work, we had to cancel the next innovation day, which was coming up in only 3 days. And we had to create a plan how to keep innovation activities going in Hill. So we booked a date for the following week already, and we committed to creating a first version of an online workshop. And with everyone now at home, we had to rethink how participating feels like from behind a screen. But we were really excited for the challenge, as everyone knows each other really well in the team, and we knew we could throw good challenges at all the team members. And we had been using Microsoft Teams a lot in all the projects, so that was a smooth transition on that side. But in terms of service design, it was time to change it up from physical post-its to digital ones. And most team members had been using this real-time online whiteboard tool called Mira for mind mapping and collecting information. So we had that tool at our disposal that would work really well also online. And now it was a matter of coming up with new ways of using it as an environment for working together in live sessions. And now, 3 months later, we are still working remotely and we are comfortable with the ways of working, and we are really excited that we were able to establish new methods. Altogether, we as a team, we held more than 10 online workshops, and we took part in organizing workshops also with others in our team, as also others do these activities. And very importantly, we have also been taking part in many workshops. And at least for me, the taking part was really helpful to analyze how the innovation process was working and to develop the methods further. And Simi, do you have some further observations about how it was taking part in workshops?
It was indeed great to take part also in your workshop. And I think from my side, empathy and the ability to empathize, comes to my mind first. It became really clear that the ability to empathize is not only a really important skill in physical workshops and in design in general, but also it's really important remotely. So yeah, you just can't underestimate the psychological aspects of sitting in front of a monitor. It's a really different way of working and having conversations. And after I participated in your online workshop, I really understood how it feels to speak into this void with a little feedback. So you can't read rooms like in physical workshops. You can't see faces and often don't hear people because microphones are muted. And yeah, therefore you need to put up different mechanisms and ask more often if everything is clear and is understandable and all these things. And I think this was clearly one of the biggest learnings, how to adapt to an online environment. But there of course are other things as well. So in a physical workshop, for example, it's rather easy to create an inspiring environment and at the same time hinting on the level of how formal or informal the day will be. So you can create the mood of the day with different things, like playing with how the room is set up, or you can structure the days with breaks and refreshments, which is of course important for creating ideas as well. But in an online environment, you have to cope really, really differently with this. So at most you have the cursors and nothing else, but you still have the chance to inspire and set the mood. For example, you can play with how the workshop material looks like visually, or you could play with the structure and openness of exercises to help setting the mood. Or you even could spice up your invitation that it looks inspiring and can highlight the level of how formal or informal in the innovation session will be. So about this, do you have like a favorite exercise, Jutta, that created a fun and inspiring environment?
Yeah, for me, my favorite exercise was this warm-up exercise here, which we created together with our colleague for his workshop. And so each participant drew what our organization would look like if it was a superhero. And it didn't take long for the participants to realize that this was an informal, creative session, and we were brainstorming in a really safe place. And like the superhero example, it was a fun activity, but in reality, we were using quite many advanced features in it at the same time, as we knew our team could handle it, and they were quite fluent with using Mira. And introducing new features in every workshop kept really everyone on their toes and engaged, which can be really a challenge when you're working remotely. So we also used that as a tool to make sure everybody is taking part and listening actively. And each exercise that we did was built on what we already had been working on. So to make sure that the content is relevant and the tools and the methods that were only there to boost the innovation first and foremostly. And now Gauthier will explain a bit more on the strategic side on how the innovation activities were adapted to our ways of working.
Thanks, Jutta. So if we come back to our ways of working with innovation, post-COVID, people can't meet physically anymore. Sometimes we have to work and parent, which was my case for quite a long time with a little toddler running around me. So we had to adapt our ways of working and make them more flexible. So we took our innovation day concept, and then instead of a workshop, we turned it into an innovation cycle. And that allowed us to let people work at their own rhythm and from a distance. It helps us to develop ideas into concepts more independently. And also we run these cycles between our management review rounds, where we were able then to filter the concepts and pass them forward. So we have set our own innovation board using Miro, where we have set our design toolkit available. We conducted regular sessions to make sure that everybody understands the methodology and knows how to work with it. After that, we made drop-in sessions for providing assistance. Jutta, can you tell us a little more about what benefits did we get in doing so?
Yeah, so as we were able to share the methods toolkit online, it was great because it was accessible for the whole team anytime from anywhere. And we were able to also share the instructions on how to use the tools, not only provide the tools as in every of the session we had made before. So always had these drop-in sessions and really instruct how to use them. But also if you were there to use it on your own, maybe you forgot how it works, there were examples for every tool, how they use. And what was really good is that it's quite collaborative. As you can see here, all the comments is that we can really, it's not just you working on your own, you can ask for people to comment and read your idea. And so that was quite nice for the process. And now I will walk you through one of our workshops that we did that benefited from this sharing and collaboration online. So we were already working in a familiar territory, as it says here, that it was a pain point workshop, as that's in the core of what we do in the discovery team. And what we want to share with the team is also what we find from the field. And this workshop was a walkthrough of a full innovation process from recognizing a fruitful problem to then creating a concept. And we had 3 sessions that were each 1 hour long, and they had 2 days in between for everyone to work further on the ideas in question. And the participants were split into pairs, as small groups are most practical when working remotely. And this activity helped allocate time to look into pain points further and to discover the ideas that might not be the first solution when you run into a problem. And as an outcome, 3 teams came up with concept drafts. And here is a full board of one of the teams. As you can see, they used quite a few of these methods and templates that we supplied, and quite a bit of work goes into this. And this was one of the most elaborate workshops that we did, and it was the result of iterating on our workshop concepts, and also it was created according to the learnings we had gathered. And one of the most valuable way of improving was collecting feedback, which we did almost after every workshop from team members. And here are some of the comments on what worked well, which of course made us really happy. It was mentioned that the mood was good, and that people really appreciated that they had time to work in between the sessions. But thankfully, we're lucky that the team is not shy on giving constructive feedback and being critical, which can be really helpful to improve. So we could, for example, according to these comments, we worked on the scheduling and timing so it fits people better. And an iterative way of working was helpful to recognize these main learnings. And Simi will now go over what did we find out, what do we summarize are the main learnings.
Thank you, Jutta. And yes, I will share with you our main learnings that we found out work well and would work well in the future. So the first really important one is the ability to emphasize for remote innovation workshops, as we said before. And of course, you need to adapt to the to online environment to set the workshop moods. For example, with structure or exercises you use. And of course, it won't be continue exactly like in a physical environment. But the online environment and the remote innovation is also an opportunity to make innovation processes more structured, as Jutta and Gauthier introduced. For example, in providing a methods toolkit for the team. And that it's important to engage and challenge and experiment with what you plan and do is, of course, clear, to keep things interesting also for the participants and challenge them as well. And then on a practical level of facilitating and planning and scheduling, we also had some good learnings that we know now work and would work in the future. As Jutta said, working in pairs was really beneficial for our team. They pushed and inspired each other, so the communication was really helpful here. And the drop-in sessions worked well. So you come to the workshops if you have time and interest in the topic, and then you learn about the templates and the online tools like Miro. And it was also really helpful that we found time in our internal processes in presentation sessions to present the concept afterwards, because it gives a sense of responsibility and that you're working towards something that is really appreciated by the whole team. And lastly, it's really good to experiment also with the timing of the sessions. So having shorter session or working in between the sessions or working collaboratively together in sessions, like Jutta said.
Thanks for sharing, Simi. Hopefully these tips will resonate with anybody with us today who's working with innovation within the borders of their organization. But tell me now, how about working with the external partners? What difference does one need to take into consideration compared to working internally?
So for the external innovation processes, we started pretty much the same than for the internal innovation processes. We could really benefit from our learnings internally and build and expand on them. So, for example, the ability to empathize was key also for external innovation processes. And it was even more important, I'd say, here, because we didn't know the people so well than we do know our team, and needed to be extra careful and extra clear to include everyone and introduce everything correctly. And we focused, therefore, as well on sharing what we know and we know would work. But we put emphasis in introducing some of the methods and tools we use, for example, Miro. And therefore, the drop-in sessions and explaining the tools and ways of working, we really build on and made sure that everyone feels comfortable with, for them, mostly new tools like Miro and other online working methods. And lastly, we could totally build on our own experience with timing the exercises and sessions themselves to find a good fit for working also with the external stakeholders. But maybe, Gauthier, you could tell us a bit more for what exactly we used our learnings and share an example of that.
Absolutely. I can introduce one of the workshops we did with the externals from a couple of weeks ago. We ran a service blueprint workshop. It's a tool that I particularly love to work with. I worked with it a lot in the past, but only physically. So I just couldn't wait to see how it would work by doing this type of sessions online. So Service Blueprint, for the ones that don't know, it's a tool that basically allows you to place in parallel your customer journey and your internal process. And when you do that and analyze customer feedback, you can have a representation of where it's important for you to put efforts in developing your service level. Where do you perform well at the moment and where you don't? It's also a good reality check for a company to judge its customer centricity level. As you can clearly see, how well do you actually know your customer, what's important for them, and how well do you serve them? So Jutta, what were the biggest learnings that we gained through such sessions with our external partners?
So on the facilitating side, so in this one we had a bigger group and we were able to facilitate smoothly as we had allocated a main facilitator for the exercises, and then we had a co-facilitator helping keep the Miro board in order. And we also had a first trial of another facilitator role, which was more about kind of IT support, with participants being able to ask practical questions about the technical side of how it works. And if they needed support, they could go to another person. This way we can anticipate technical glitches that will always happen, and we were able to keep the pace up without worrying about having to take care of everything at the same time, as the most important thing for the facilitator was the content at that moment of a specific exercise. And what we also found really useful was to keep a second video connection open with only facilitators to kind of break the illusion of speaking to a void, and we always had a friendly face to relate to.
Thanks, Jutta. So we're now approaching the end of our presentation. So as a summary, a few key numbers about the outcome of our internal innovation process going digital. From all the internal innovation processes, we got a tremendous amount of ideas that gave birth to concept drafts, as you can see here. And maybe the final word is one of the KPIs that service designers use to evaluate the output of workshops are post-its. And as we managed to go over 1,000 of them throughout our sessions, working digitally actually made our life much more easier and saved a lot of time for us transcripting all that, and therefore another advantage of digital innovation process. Thank you very much. This is it for our presentation part. We have 9 minutes left in the call, so now we would like to open for Q&As. I'm gonna go and see if we already have some questions lined up in the chat. I cannot see any at the moment. Please feel free to use this Q&A functionality in Teams to ask us any questions that comes to your mind. We are here happy to discuss anything related to digital innovation. First question just came in. You recommended working in pairs. Have you tried workshopping in bigger groups, and how did it work out? Who wants to take this question?
Yeah, so I can take this one as I already kind of mentioned this a little bit. So we also did workshops in bigger groups, and then it's just all about really building up the sessions, and the working in pairs was really good when you had kind of homework to do or worked in a project, but it's really a good method and works really well when you are building even bigger groups, and it's all about making sure that everybody knows how the tools work.
Maybe I can add to that. When you're building a workshop and considering groups, you always have to think about experience versus non-experience, somebody which is going to be creative against somebody that's going to be on the expert level. What you're looking for is this compatibility, but also maximize the diversity of thoughts so that you can come up with a very interesting concepts that are at the same time out of the box and relevant for the market. So it is an art. It is an art.
And if I can also add something to this, I think it was also really important to come back together into a bigger group sometimes and not only work in pairs, because as Jutta also introduced earlier, we could comment on each other's ideas, and the team could comment on each other's ideas, which made the concepts even more fruitful and better.
Good point. There is another question in the chat box. Did you come up with a recommendation for the length of the workshops? Who wants to take this one? I have one data in my mind that I always keep. I don't even remember where I read it, but it's proven to be true. One's ability to focus in terms of brain capacity, you get the full power 45 minutes. After that, the brain activity starts to slow down. People get mentally tired. So it's always good to have a break after 45 minutes whenever possible. So we discussed about the service blueprint work exercise. This lasted for several hours, and we decided to take breaks in between so that people also can answer their emails, get a cup of coffee, have a bio break, just freshen up their mind, get their mind into some other place, just relax a little bit, and then come back and be productive again. But I think as a good rule of thumb, you can always try to keep these 45-minute sessions at a time as maybe where you get the max out of people.
I think that's a good rule of thumb.
We have another question. How would you recommend dividing the teams into pairs? Is it working better when mixing people from different professional fields? That's a very good question. Who'd like to take it?
I can start answering. So what we did in our workshops that we found really important when it's all about really doing work in between workshops is that you are passionate and interested in the idea. So what we did in our workshop was that we divided people according to their interests. So in the first session, we let people kind of look around, what are the topics that they could work on, and then we matched up the people, and it worked well. We found a right amount of people for the right topics, and we thought that that was the right way to go with that specific workshop.
That's a good.
Yeah, and I think, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think it's also like you can always pull in other information from other people who are experts in like asking as a team someone else for advice. So
that's a good point.
I agree with you that like the passion for the topic is the most important thing.
One addition maybe is that whenever you talk about innovation, the best way to go about it is to know the problem and then develop a solution. So I think you can also think of mixing the pairs with one person that knows exactly the problem. That could come from the client side, is a problem expert, and usually they are these SMEs or subject matter experts. And then you come up with somebody pretty innovative, creative, or coming from the tech side that knows solutions very well. And when you start matching this problem and then the solution, you usually come up with a high success rate for an innovation process. And that goes into any innovation process overall, but it also applies very well in the way that we work in here. I don't see any more questions in the chat. We have 3 minutes left on the clock. So maybe we will take just a little moment to see if new questions come. And if not, then we're going to be closing this call. I can't see any more questions coming right now. You can find our contact details on the HIL website. So if you have any other questions or you want to have a call and discuss, we're always accessible, available. We love service design. We're really geeky about it. So anytime that you want to have a conversation about innovation or how we work, please don't hesitate, reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer. If you have ideas for project concepts on how to make the industry more sustainable and more efficient, please reach out. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you to Jutta and Simi, my co-hosts today. It was a pleasure doing this with you. And
thank you.
Stay tuned. We'll come back. Have a great day. Bye.